Narcissists are the kings and queens of double standards. They are the epitome of do as I say, not as I do. In this video, I am going to explore the reasons that narcissists are some of the biggest hypocrites that you will ever meet. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. So I'm going to go over 3 main theories I have on why narcissists are such hypocrites. But first, I want to go over a little bit about what I mean by this. I'm sure that a lot of us don't really need clarification here, but I know for me, the narcissists in my life always made me feel like I should be ashamed of things that I said and did and thought. When you step back and look at it, they're doing and saying and thinking very similar things, or they seem to be. But somehow they're not only convinced that it's okay if they do it, but not okay if you do, but they frame things in a way that can convince you that you're wrong and they're right, or that somehow the rules don't apply to them in the same way that they do to you. Maybe they can frame this in a way of intention, like my intentions are good, but your intentions are bad. Things like that. And they can really mess with your head in that way. Or sometimes they can just gaslight you or confuse you until you're sure that even if it doesn't make sense, somehow the things you're doing are wrong and the things that they're doing are right. Even though they might seem to be the same thing, they're really not. Just for example, maybe they criticize your parents. Maybe they talk about the way your parents talk or the way that your parents treat you or keep their house, or maybe your parents' political opinions, or just anything that they could criticize your parents over. But the minute you try to criticize their parents, suddenly it's made very clear that that is not allowed, and it's made very clear that somehow you must have some kind of character defect to even think of criticizing their parents. And they can make this feel like a very reasonable complaint. I mean, how dare you speak ill of my parents? But if you try to ask them, well, how come it's okay when you criticize my parents, but it's not okay if I criticize your parents? You might get some kind of deflection like, I didn't know we were keeping score. Or if you can't see the difference between the two, then there's no way I can make you understand. Something like that, that's like a non-answer, but a very deflective answer that really shuts you down and makes you think, well, I just don't understand, but I better not question what he or she is saying. Another way that you could be shut down is simply by pointing out the specific things that either of you are complaining about. Somehow the things that the narcissist are complaining about, the things that the narcissist is criticizing your parents for, are valid, and the things that you're complaining about are petty. So you're the petty, complaining, toxic person, and they're the person that just has valid concerns about serious problems, when really you're both doing pretty much exactly the same thing. So I said I had 3 main theories on why this happens with narcissistic people. The first theory is that this is a form of projection. You'll notice that narcissists are often going to complain and yell and get irritated over things that they're actually the ones that are doing. Narcissists will accuse you of doing things that they are actually doing. And sometimes they're aware of this. Sometimes this is a form of gaslighting or a purposeful form of manipulation to take the light off of them, to take the heat off of them, so that if you were suspicious of anything they were doing, now the light's on you and they can get away with whatever it is they're trying to do. But sometimes this projection is unconscious. In fact, projection itself as a defense mechanism is unconscious. Narcissists don't know when they're projecting. That's part of what projection is for. It's a way to emotionally cope with feelings and beliefs that are unbearable. You just shove them off onto someone else and pretend that that person is the one with the problem. So this can often turn into you being berated and insulted and criticized for things that you're not even doing, but they are. And good luck trying to communicate this back to them. The second theory that explains their hypocrisy is just their feeling of superiority. And this is pretty simple to understand. Narcissists just believe that they're superior. They believe that they're at the top of the heap, that the rules don't apply to them, that they're better at everything, and that they should be able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, because they trust their own judgment. The rules are for everyone else. It's like if you've ever been in a car with a narcissist who is driving, the speed limit applies to everyone else, or whatever rule that they don't feel like following, because they have it in their mind that somehow they know what they're doing. They are incapable of mistakes. They don't need rules. They don't need boundaries, because everything they do is perfect. But you'll see that if they see anyone else breaking the rules, such as the speed limit, that person is in the wrong. That person is to be criticized because that person's not following the rules. And they really don't see that this is hypocritical, because they really believe that they don't need rules and that the rules are there to protect them from everyone else, but not to protect everyone else from them. This is part of their pathological self-centeredness. They don't see the world from everybody else's viewpoint. They really don't emotionally understand that they're one person in a sea of billions of people. They feel like the sun, and everyone else that they know, everyone else that they see is a planet. The world and the universe revolves around them. And so the rules are there to keep order in their world, not in everyone's world, but in their world. The rules are there to benefit them, not you, not the other people. So why should the rules apply to them if it's their world? And if everything in the world that happens is for them or because of them and is meant to benefit them, they shouldn't have to follow rules in a world where the purpose of absolutely everything is to make their life better. Nothing else has any purpose. Nothing else has any meaning. And we can tie in their black and white thinking into this reason as well. They're superior and everyone else is inferior. And it's not even really on a scale. It's no rules apply to them and all rules apply to everyone else. And this means that everything they do is good. Everything they do is acceptable, 100% acceptable. And anything that anyone else does that interferes with what they want is 100% unacceptable. And so if somebody breaks a rule and that in turn affects them in any way at all, that person is 100% bad. If I'm a narcissist and the world revolves around me and everything that happens for me, and I am in a hurry, so I run a stop sign and I almost hit somebody in my car, but I'm in a hurry. So I run the stop sign and I don't actually hit anyone and I get to my destination faster and I am benefited by running the stop sign. Because I am benefited by the action that I committed, that makes the action okay. However, if I'm in the other car and somebody runs a stop sign and I'm a narcissist and this scares me, or maybe it slows me down and it doesn't benefit me, it's the same action, but because somebody else is doing it, it's wrong, especially if it affects me. And it's easy to see it from that point of view, but it's harder if you're not a narcissist to see it from the other point of view, from a point of view in which you don't consider the other person's perspective, in which your memory of being in the other position, your memory of the shoe being on the other foot is like erased. Narcissists can't put themselves in the shoes of other people, even if they've experienced the same thing that person's experienced. Their perspective blinds them to all other perspectives. They are always only aware of how they are feeling and how they are being affected by the things around them. They just don't care about other people. They don't care about how other people are affected, how other people feel, or what other people need or want. It's not even that they don't care, they don't even think about it. And the third theory of where a narcissist's hypocrisy comes from is that feelings are facts. And this is a little more abstract, but I think that it can really get deep into the meat of where this hypocrisy comes from. Narcissists interpret reality based on their emotions, based on how things are making them feel. That's how they decide what is actually happening around them. That's how they make their judgments. And this is how they determine what's right and what's wrong, by how they feel about what is happening. I want you to imagine that you are at a party and there's potato chips and dip, and you see somebody that you really like. You really love this person. They make you laugh. You trust them. You really admire this person. They're just someone you like a lot. And you watch them come up and double dip a chip in the chip dip. I mean, you feel the way however you feel about people double dipping their chips, right? And you're probably going to have a little bit of a judgment, but at the same time, you're probably not going to completely lose your cool and lose all respect for this person that you otherwise very much like. But now imagine that at this same party with the same chips and dip, there's someone there that you really dislike. Somebody that just creeps you out. You're uncomfortable around. You don't even like to look at this person. Maybe they've done something that has really upset you, and you just have no respect for this person. And imagine that same person comes along and double dips a chip in the chip dip. You're probably going to judge that person much more harshly for the exact same act as the person that you really liked. But it's the same act. Now, is that hypocrisy? I mean, it kind of comes from the same place, but if you imagine yourself in that scenario, you can kind of start to understand how a narcissist will judge the same actions differently based on whether they're doing it or someone else. It's because they interpret reality based on their feelings, and they feel like if they do it, it's okay, and if you do it, it's not okay. And that becomes their reality. It taints their reality the same way that the way that you already felt about that person affected your judgment of them double dipping their chip at a party. In the moment that a narcissist is committing an act of any kind, they have a certain feeling about it. And the moment that you are committing an act that affects them in any way, they also have a feeling about that. And the feeling that they have in any of those moments is how they interpret that action. They are not able to move themselves to your perspective. So, for example, if a narcissist steals a cookie, I know I keep using food analogies, but if a narcissist steals a cookie, well, now they have a cookie and they feel good about that. And maybe they eat the cookie and it's good and they have a great time eating this cookie. And they have good feelings, and through those good feelings, they interpret the act as good and they justify it in that way. That's how they interpret reality, is through how they feel. But now if you steal a cookie from them, they feel bad about that. They are not experiencing the good feelings that you are experiencing by eating that cookie. They're only experiencing the bad feelings that they feel by you stealing it from them. Even though it's the same act, in order for them to have the maturity to see the act as the same thing, they would have to put themselves in your perspective. They would have to be honest enough with themselves to say, oh, well, I did exactly the same thing that they did, and I know why I did it, so I can understand why they did it. I can understand why you would steal a cookie because I understand why I did it. They can't really do that, and it's very childish, and it's a very simple part of childhood development that just never happened with a narcissist. Narcissists can't look at things from your point of view, and they don't want to, and they don't care enough to even try. And this is why the exact same act committed by them, in their eyes, is very different from when you commit the same act. So if you are having to deal with someone like this, and if you are constantly subjected to these double standards, do as I say, not as I do, it really helps to remember that it really has nothing to do with anything that you're actually doing. It really has nothing to do with the severity of how right or how wrong your actions or their actions are. This all has to do with an incredibly immature mindset, with a fragile ego that's constantly trying to reassure itself that it is superior to everyone else, with an inability to put oneself in somebody else's shoes, with an extremely pathologically self-centered worldview. This is not your fault, and it's nothing that you have any control over. You cannot make a narcissist have a fully mature, well-developed worldview. You can't make them understand things that they just don't understand and don't want to understand. And no matter what you do, and no matter how hard you try to make them happy, they are always going to find fault with the things that you do if it makes them feel better about themselves. And it's really important to understand that you can't do anything about that. It's really important to understand that it really has absolutely nothing to do with you or anything that you have actually done. This is just the way it is. This is the way that they interpret reality. And I think there's a lot of peace in letting go of this overwhelming desire to try to talk sense to them and try to make them see how unfair they're being, because you just really can never do that. You can keep chasing and chasing and chasing that until you're absolutely exhausted, and all you will have done is wear yourself out trying to do something that really is impossible. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I release new videos every Tuesday and Friday. And if you like this video, I hope to see you back here for the next one. Until next time, thanks. Bye.